I broke up with my boyfriend because he never washed his hands and kept giving me infections. Look, I don't consider myself the cleanest person in the world, but I do believe in washing my hands regularly, and I feel kind of grossed out now when I look back on my ex and I's relationship and I think about how many of his filthy habits I let slide. I met my ex when we were both working at the same restaurant. I was a waitress, and he worked in the back as a cook. I honestly want to throw up when I think about how much food he must have contaminated with how dirty his hands always were. It's a real possibility that he was getting customers sick regularly because of how unhygienic he was. We started dating because he was super charismatic and extremely attractive to me, but it wasn't until we had been together for about 3 months that I realized how comfortable with being dirty he was. After the very first time we were intimate with each other, I got a UTI. I brushed it off thinking that it was just a freak thing, but I started getting them after every single time we hooked up. Even though it was grossing me out and stressing me out, my feelings for him were still growing, and I just tried asking him to use hand sanitizer before we got physical. Every time we sit down to eat together, he never washes his hands. I've never even seen him wash his hands after he's used the bathroom. Even after going number 2, he will just run water over his hands for a second before wiping them on his pants. Typing this all out now makes me feel so stupid for letting such a filthy human being have access to my body in any way. He was honestly disgusting when it came to hygiene. Even though he is a very handsome man, he didn't really keep up with self-care or grooming his facial or pubic hair. In fact, when I think about it, I think he only showered maybe once a week. He constantly smelled like my dish rag from the restaurant. He would even go weeks without cutting his nails, and once he ripped up my bed covers because his toenails were so long and sharp. I decided to finally end things with him when we were hanging out one night, and we were about to have intimacy, but I asked him right before if he had washed his hands. He answered very quickly saying yes, of course I did, and we continued. I ended up getting the most painful UTI yet after that night, and it was clear that he had completely lied about washing his hands beforehand. This is honestly humiliating to write out, since I'm seeing clearer than ever just how much I tolerated, and how much I put my body through just because I was making excuses for a dirty, disrespectful manchild.